Hi, everybody. Shirley Plant here, creator of DeliciousAlternatives.com, a website you can go to find help and foods and recipes within the confines of food allergies, dietary restrictions, and for those of you who are simply looking for healthy alternatives. Today, I am so pleased. I am joined by Dr. Rodger Murphree, a board-certified chiropractic physician and author of many books like Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome and Heart Disease, What Your Doctor Won't Tell You. He also writes for several publications and lectures around the United States to other physicians and healthcare practitioners. Dr. Murphy's focus changed in 2002 to mainly helping people with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, mood disorders, and other chronic illnesses. He does offer both in-office and phone consults, and that's actually how I came to know of him, because I listened to one of his wonderful weekly webinars, and then I consulted him via phone for a consult. And you know, he has been the first doctor in many that I have seen who suggested many tests, one of them being genetic tests and other lab work that some of my former doctors hadn't thought of. So I am eternally grateful to him for his wisdom and his knowledge, and I so appreciate him taking the time today to talk to us. Thank you and welcome, Dr. Murphree.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here. I'm a big fan of yours because I think this is a very timely presentation. I think it's the right time. So I'm delighted to be here.
Great. So today we're going to talk about diet and how it relates to conditions like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. So my first question to you is, how important is diet in relation to chronic conditions?
You know, it's funny because I've really been thinking about that a lot, because I have been trained initially as a chiropractor. And like in medical school, you go through that and you think you're learning biochemistry and you think, I'm never going to use this. And then I got out and I did just traditional chiropractic for a number of years, and then I realized that I had a different calling, which was to help people with mood disorders that then led into chronic illnesses, and then in my specialty, fibromyalgia. And so for the last 17 years, that's what I've specialized in. And even though I'm a board-certified nutritional specialist and I'm trained in diet, I don't really talk a lot about a diet. I have that in my books, but it's always bored me, Shirley, okay? Because I like the biochemistry stuff. I like the complicated stuff. But what I've come to realize, and maybe it's an age thing at the age of 53, is what I see is it's a life. You get here, where you're at in your health, it's a lifetime. And it is so true, you are what you eat. You don't realize that when you're age of, when you're 20, when you're 30. Even when I was in my 40s, it didn't really dawn on me. And now as I've gotten older, and of course I've worked with patients all over the world who have broken down in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, the reason they got that way is mainly poor diet. Now it's poor health habits too, but mainly diet. You truly are what you eat. And the challenge for a lot of people is, if you change your diet today, you're not going to notice a big difference in a week. If you change your biochemistry with the right vitamins, minerals, amino acids, you can. But long term, and that's really what we need to focus on, long term, it's all about fixing the problem. And you fix that through changing your diet.
And I think you're right, as you said, it's not just diet alone. It's not just, as you say, the biochemistry alone. It's a huge part. It's really putting the puzzle together, and I feel that that's what you do so very well, is looking at all the pieces of the puzzle. So I've gone ahead and I have created this 21-day challenge for people where I help them to remove gluten, dairy, and sugar from their diet. So let's talk about foods like sugar, gluten, and dairy, and even other grains that can create inflammation in our bodies. Why is it so important for people to stay away from these foods?
Well, those foods that you mentioned, those have the potential to trigger problems. And food allergies or food sensitivities are the great masqueraders. They can cause any symptom known to man, whether that's chronic pain, migraine headaches, IBS, anxiety, depression. They can cause all those things and do. The challenge is for most people, you don't know that gluten is giving you a problem. You don't know that dairy is causing you to be congested and contributing to your asthmatic symptoms. And it's because you eat these foods day in and day out over a period of years, you start to feel bad. You just attribute that to either getting older or some other reason. You're not really sure. But foods are changing our biochemistry, and over the years, we may develop certain intolerances or actually allergic reactions to these foods.
And I'm sure you do testing on your patients, but as we know, testing is not 100% accurate. So I know you, like I do with my clients, I suggest an elimination diet. And I guess that was really why I put together this 21-day challenge, because I wanted to help people, hold their hand and help them to remove these foods that, as you say, they are eating day in and day out and have probably no idea that they are playing such a role in their diet. I know last time I ran my challenge, there were a couple of people who, decided to take the challenge, and they really thought that they weren't going to notice any different by removing these foods. And they were astounded that those little chronic ailments that they have, that they're just so used to living with day in and day out, all of a sudden they disappeared or they got better. And that was, I think, the best part of the challenge, was that these people were noticing that these foods do play a role in our body, and they do cause inflammation. So maybe you can talk a little bit about inflammation in the body and why it's such a problem, and really why we need to eat, especially if we have fibromyalgia, a low inflammatory diet.
Well, inflammation really is the trigger for all illnesses. First of all, it's stress, and stress is what drives inflammation. And then it's inflammation, whether we're talking about fibromyalgia or we're talking about heart disease. It's these inflammatory chemicals that set off a cascade that then drive all the poor health that we see in chronic poor health. And foods, depending on what you're choosing for foods, you can either turn those cascades on or you can turn them off. And a lot of that has to do with finding out, do you have a food or a food group that could be triggering inflammation? That's why all my patients go on an elimination diet. And that's why I'm so excited to hear that you're doing this challenge, because basically your challenge is what I do with my patients. And for the patients who do the elimination diet, they ask, well, if I take away dairy and I take away sugar and I take away gluten, I take away nightshades, eggs, what do I have left? Well, I mean, you've got any fruit you want, you've got any vegetable you want, and you can eat meat. That's fine. But in our society, we think we're so conditioned to eat the same foods over and over again, and the foods that we eat are the convenience foods, which are wheat, a sandwich with a piece of meat and a piece of cheese, and sugar. Sugar's in everything. So as far as inflammation, diet definitely has the potential to drive inflammation, whether that's poor fats or that's just poor choices that you're making. Sugar is a known inflammatory agent. So I think now we're in America, North America, the average person is getting 140 pounds of sugar a year. No wonder we're having problems with increased risk of cancers and cardiovascular disease and all the poor health that we have.
It's so true, and I talk about that in leading up to my 21-day challenge. I've put together 3 complimentary videos where I've interviewed medical specialists, and we talk about that. I think it's about 150 pounds of sugar that we are consuming, and where are we getting this sugar? And so one of the videos I dedicate to, I go grocery shopping and I buy common foods that we buy every week at our grocery store that I think most people think are healthy and nutritious. And when we turn them on our side and we look at the nutritional fact label, we see that they're probably not that healthy and they are laden with sugar. And so I'm so glad that you help your patients to do an elimination diet. Part of the challenge is really helping people to remove gluten, dairy, and sugar first, and then it's many times people then say to me, wow, I feel so much better. Can you lead me further? Can we keep taking out other foods that could be causing problems, and we continue on? A lot of people then will consult with me and I help them. And I think that's really why I put together the 21-day challenge. You know, as you said, I think many people know that their diet is not adequate, is not as good as it could be, but they just don't know how to go about changing it. And that's part of the challenge. I share with people how to go grocery shopping, what to look for, stick to the outside of the grocery store. You know, there are lots of foods that we can eat, even though we are eliminating dairy, gluten, and sugar. There's many other grains. There's quinoa, which is a wonderful protein. There are vegetables, fruits, healthy meats, healthy poultry, fish, lots of options. And I supply the challengers with over 90 recipes and menu plans, and it's recipes the whole family will enjoy. So I so appreciate you coming on and sharing with us your knowledge. Perhaps you'd like to just leave our viewers with a couple of tips. Maybe you'd like to share what you eat during the day. You know, you're a busy guy. You know, you don't have time for a lot of prep. What are some of the go-to healthy foods that you like to eat on a daily or weekly basis?
Well, you know, that could be a disaster depending on, you know, but fortunately I walk the walk, and I do, as you know. But for me, I think that what happens is most people have bought into the concept that it's got to be, you've got to eat as we've been told, or we've been the propaganda. You don't need to have bacon and eggs every morning. You don't have to have waffles. For me, breakfast is very simple. It's going to be fresh fruit, whatever that is. If the berries are in season, and preferably if they're organic, it's going to be that with whole cashews or almonds, some kind of nuts. And that's about it for me for breakfast. I don't eat a real big breakfast. For lunch, it's going to be a real light lunch because I'm consulting all day on the phone, and I can't eat a big lunch or it really bogs me down. Typically, it's going to be a salad, or it's going to be, again, some type of fruit and nuts. It's not going to be anything fancy. Now, dinner, which is not typically how you're supposed to do this, it's usually my larger dinner, largest meal, and it's because I just have time for it. Almost every night of the week I have a big salad, and the reason why I do that is because my goal is to get in 5 to 7 fruits and vegetables every single day. It's rare I don't do that. It's really not that hard, especially if you eat a salad, because a salad is easy. You can put raw broccoli on there, cauliflower, and then you can put by the time you put your tomatoes and your carrots, you're going to get 5 veggies or fruits on there pretty quickly. So for me, I try to keep it simple. I eat pretty clean. In my house, 3 kids, you don't see a lot of chips, and rarely do you see, there's just not much sugar around the house. We try to eat as clean as we can. And your observation about eating, you know, you shop on the surrounding aisles of the supermarket, and you want to eat real food that if you leave out, it's going to go bad within a day or two. If you do that, you're going to be okay. So you know, certainly I could improve. I love my coffee, although coffee is a great antioxidant. You know, I like my glass of red wine, which is within moderation can be a good thing. But one thing I do want to do before we wrap up, because this was something that I want to make sure I share, is the folks who are watching this. If you haven't done this, I would encourage you, and I'm going to give you a plug. You didn't know I was going to do this, but I really encourage you to get Shirley's book, and Finally Food You Can Eat. And she was kind enough to send me this book when we first started working together, and I thought it was brilliant. And the reason why is because a lot of my patients have food sensitivities. They're gluten intolerant. I test everybody for gluten because how it affects your thyroid and other problems. And this book is a great book because it takes all the work out of what the heck you can eat. It's got all these wonderful recipes in there that are made super simple, super easy, that are dairy-free, gluten-free, no nightshades, no sugar, and I've used some of these, and they taste good, which you can't say that for a lot of these. So I want to encourage those who are watching this video, make sure you do the 21-day challenge, because it's going to, when you do an elimination diet the way Shirley is advocating this and the way that I do, oftentimes you can see massive health breakthroughs. You can see that you jumpstart your metabolism. You may lose 10 pounds. Some patients lose 15 pounds in 3 weeks. You'll find that allergies, these wheezing, asthmatic problems that you have, problems with fatigue, headaches, these little naggy headaches that you get, oftentimes those go away. So I encourage you to take advantage of this program and Shirley's knowledge. I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful resource for my patients. I'm going to recommend they all get involved in this. And for anybody that's listening, I want to encourage you to take advantage of it.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you for the plug. Anyway, so I'm going to leave you today and just say thank you so much for joining us. And I will be back again with Dr. Murphree for sure. We will do many more Google Hangouts and share his wonderful knowledge and how he helps so many people with chronic ailments, certainly fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. Just let everybody know, Dr. Murphree, where they can go again to find your book and your website.
Well, thanks, Shirley. So my main website is treatingandbeating.com, and my blog is theFibroDoctor.com, and the book is now in 5th edition, the Fibro book that is, and it's Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome in most bookstores throughout North America, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and many others. So thanks for having me.
Here it is. This is I think this is the latest one, isn't it?
That's the 5th edition. Yeah.
I have your very, very, very beginning one, the brown covered one.
2003. Yeah, that was a while back.
Anyway, all right. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.